Okay, we are live.
All right, thank you very much. Welcome everybody to Township of Georgian Bay Special Council meeting of Tuesday, February 15th, 2022. And I'd like to call this meeting to order at 2:46 p.m., please. In the spirit of reconciliation, we wish to acknowledge the enduring relationship between Indigenous peoples and the territories that they traditionally occupied. We recognize and deeply appreciate the historic connection they have to this place, the land, the water, the sky, and all that live on it, above it, and under it. We are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of Indigenous people who have taken care of this place and who continue to take care of this place. And we want to show our respect. Hundreds of years after the first treaties were signed, they remain relevant today. May they guide our decisions and our actions. We commit to learn, to educate, to honor sacred places, and take action towards real truth and reconciliation. Miigwech. Any declarations of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest in regard to the agenda in front of us? All right. We don't have a delegation from district, I understand at this point, and I don't think we had anybody sign up for open forum. And therefore, we have moved by Councillor Bocek, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Be it resolved, the council adopts the agenda of February 15th, 2022 as circulated. All those in favor? And that is carried. Now, we have on that agenda one topic under new business, namely waste management update. Ms. Boutnet, do you want to initiate that conversation for us?
Absolutely, and through you, your worship. Let's just say this matter, I've been aware of this matter since I started working for the Township of Georgian Bay. I had never taken a deep dive into the subject matter until I became acting CAO. My role here today is to advance this matter. I know it is of high importance to a lot of the council members, and I want to ensure that council direction is clear so that we are taking steps forward. I would like to mention that we're not here to talk about property counts. We hashed that out yesterday, and we know that the work's not done. And we're also not here to talk about the district allocation of costs that we've had in the past and up to date, because we really want to focus in on the future of our solid waste management. There is a report that was presented to council. This is nowhere near a full wholesome report on the history, the background up to date. A lot of work has been done in the last 2-3 years, and there's still a lot of work to come forward. We have received a letter that I forwarded to council today, and I apologize for the delay with sending that out to you. And I would like to go through this letter today and maybe drive some of the conversation that we could have today. The letter is dated February 11th. It's a letter from the District of Muskoka. It really reiterates, I believe, what council is already aware of. I just want to stop on certain sentences and define or explain things that I've found out in the last month. So in the second paragraph, they talk about an annual work plan. So originally in 2019, when the direction or letter was received by MECP that something had to change with the way the district manages waste, they were they had a consultant, GHG, do a study, and part of that study was a proposal that there was a study process to define who each of the customers are in each of the townships and who are we really serving, and that this was a 5-step process of analyzing who they are, what their needs are, what the potential solutions are, and how the solutions match the needs. And that would have generated an alternative study report. So that never happened. Terms of reference were drafted for a consultant to do this alternative study report, which were to follow the 5 steps. COVID happened and the ministry accepted from the district an annual work plan instead of this alternative study report. I'm gonna go then to item 1, which I think I've heard from council that you know, we're already pitching proposed pilot project. This confirms it. They're saying in number 1 that there is a pilot project for lakeside collection. I hear that it is difficult to propose a pilot project without that study of knowing who the customers are. On the other side of the coin, a pilot project may provide data that would be helpful for a study. So those are just some points. And they also say, number 2, that the 2022 work plan also includes an initiation of consultation with certain marinas and to discuss a depot at Go Home Lake in accordance with a resolution passed by GBT. Again, we're talking about solutions and consultations with specific people, not general consultation, and not really determining who the customers are. We discussed that the district did say that nothing much was happening in the Township of Georgian Bay in 2022 because they're going to have a lot of work to do on the other townships in 2022. I hear from council that this is not really acceptable because by the time they do the study for Georgian Bay in 2023 and then propose solutions and then implementation, we're going to be really tight on the ministry's deadline for migration to a new system, and we won't have really had the time to analyze and digest the recommendations thoroughly. I'm on page 2 of the letter. They now you know, propose that, you know, maybe we're right and a study needs to happen. There's kind of 2 alternatives in the letter. If we were to ask the district to fund a study, they are talking about that, you know, we would have to demonstrate that there is a benefit to the district to have that study. And then that they're already kind of, their work plans are already established for 2022. The letter goes on to saying that they have requested to the MECP an extension of 3 years. So that's good in some way, but that doesn't mean because there's additional time that we don't start anything. And I would like, there's more to the letter, but I think that gives us a good starting point to have conversations and so that I can take notes on where council wants to go with the solid waste matter.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll get discussion going in a moment. I think what's important here for us to do our best, and that is not spend too much effort in complaining about the past, because we know there's more than enough material which you can discuss in that matter, but rather as to what we'd like to do going forward, what we think is the best for the township in regard to solid waste going forward, and how we might determine that. And I also want to suggest to you that we should be considering not just best in terms of, let me call it, service to our residents, but in environmental goals. And what I mean by that is we don't want, I mean, one little factor that is true in many a municipality is before they create a green bin type system, that anywhere from 40 to 60% by weight of their garbage is material that could be put in a green bin. And yet most of what we've talked about and most of the service we've received the past decades have next to nothing to do with green bins unless you have roadside pickup. So that to me, I would like comments to consider about going forward. How do we best work towards a resolution of how to manage solid waste in our township? With that, we'll start with Ms. Booth. Yeah, you want to make a comment before okay, I'll let you comment, and then we'll go to Councilors Cooper and Hazelton. Thank you.
I also wanted to say that this meeting is not about proposing and debating solutions unless council wants to dictate the solution. The reason I wrote the report was to get direction on consultation, because I understand that there are a lot of solutions out there. So I just wanted to make sure that we focus in on next steps and not the final step, which is, the solutions.
Councilor Cooper, your turn.
Pretty fast with that hand, but anyway, bear with me. And I want to thank Julie for this, the work she's put into this. It's a very complex subject, and it's very hard to get your hands around it. And so I wanted to thank her for really digging in on this, and I appreciate it very much. It's a very important matter to all of us on the Bay, in the township of Georgian Bay. And with that in mind, I'd just like to remind us all that because it's a difficult subject, and it's hard to wrap your head around all this stuff. If this goes forward and we don't get it done by the time we have an election and a new council, we're going to have maybe a whole bunch of people that have to get up to speed again, and that could take a year or two, because it is complex. And so I'd like to say that I'm hoping we can find a way to move this forward. And I understand what Julie's saying about solutions. I mean, that's clear. There are some very good solutions available to us, but I think we need some help. And I'm not convinced that the district is able to help us in any particular way. We've already seen a consulting process that did not work. It was very unfortunate, but I think and the chances of the district selecting a consultant that can do good work with this, and B, that they'd pay for it, and C, not forward the bill to us anyway, which happens with most of our solid waste costs. I think we just have to grab a hold of this ourselves, and my thoughts are that we need a consultant. And I think that was a suggestion actually that came from the district, that maybe another consultant that is actually able to understand where we are and where we're going, and do some consultation with our communities to help us get to a solution. It won't be inexpensive, but we'll be playing with this thing forever if we don't get some assistance. I just think it's really would be highly advisable. With that in mind, I wanted to point out that it was suggested to me that it might be a good idea to consult with a fellow by the name of Bruce Rogers, who's one of two principals at a company called Ecometrics, which was Carl Schaefer's company. And on speaking with Bruce Rogers, who sounds terrific, it's not really in their backyard in terms of understanding. They tend to be sort of South Central Ontario, Southwestern Ontario, Bruce Peninsula. But I did get a recommendation from Bruce Rogers, and interestingly, was from a company in Bracebridge and Hutchison Engineering. It would not involve Neil Hutchison. Apparently he's retired and is no longer with that firm. And I'll keep my comments to myself about that. But I did speak with one of the two principals at that firm. His name is David Leader. He's a PGO, whatever that is, but a senior environmental scientist and senior partner at Hutchison. And when I had a very good conversation with him, very interesting, and I was impressed. A lot of a smart man with a lot of energy, enthusiasm. I didn't ask him if he'd do the work. I just simply wanted to find out what he thought might be able to be done for the township of Georgian Bay, and he made some good suggestions. He talked about some exposure that they've had with water-based communities, not the same as us for sure. He was talking about Lagoon City on Lake Simcoe as an example, where they have come up with some solutions. That's one reference and a good reference. So I just wanted to say I very much support getting us some assistance to survey our communities, see who as Julie says, who our customer is. I think it's really not all that complicated who the customer is. It's once we do understand though who that customer is, then what are going to be reasonable and affordable solutions for the township. And I think that's pretty key. We're already spending more than any other municipality in the District of Muskoka on our waste management. And so we need some more efficient solutions. And so that's where I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hazelton.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to thank Julie for digging in and listening, and then regurgitating. That's not a negative comment. Very positive comment about the material you've provided us. Thank you very much for that. I do have a question, and then I'd like to perhaps say something after that. But if I could ask our acting CAO, I was under the understanding when you were going to reach out to Fred that you were going to also ask him some questions about the costing structures of the waste management. And I don't see those in his response. Could you just let me know if those questions were forwarded on to him?
Through your worship, yes, those questions were forwarded. I was awaiting his response in a letter form before convoluting the waters with another list of questions. So those questions to the district were sent yesterday because the letter was received the 11th. As soon as I get responses to those questions, I will forward to the entirety of council.
So thank you for that. For me, and I'm not speaking for council, but I can tell you, for me, this just proves once again that we are never, ever going to get the numbers we need from the district to be able to fully understand the cost base structures and all the incremental costs that might be part of a comprehensive waste management strategy for the township. All I hear from the district is this is what they're planning, and I can tell you, I had 2 conversations with Julie in the last couple of weeks. She has listened more to the needs of our community than the district has in 3 years. So kudos to you, Julie, for listening and providing us some feedback on this. But one of the things that and in fairness, some of the material you provided and the links you provided were very illuminating. I followed the links and I read some material that I'm sure I read a year ago, but didn't really digest. And I think if I can phrase it this way, not only do we need a consultant to help us understand what the solutions might look like, but we need a consultant who can help us understand the cost structure of these potential solutions and the approval structures that we need to go through to get a solution in place that suits the needs of our community. And when I say that, I want to refresh everyone's memory that I believe it's back in 2020, we passed a resolution tasking staff to provide us with a sample marina site and what the processes might be to go through a rezoning of the property so that they would have a small section of their property to be zoned transfer site, which, you know, the MECP are telling us that is needed. And to give us an idea of what that zoning might look like and what the challenges might be from a township standpoint and what the cost processes might be of going through that process. And we've had, you know, crickets on that topic. And I'm not criticizing staff on this in any way, shape, or form. I think from what I'm observing and what we've already heard, this is a complex topic to truly get our hands around. And if we don't bring in an expert that is really independent of our township, has the ability of going to the district and getting the data that we need, because they won't be staff wanting to dance around and not, you know, irritate the district staff. They won't be counselors who are stepping out of line or whatever. They will be a consultant doing a job that needs to get done. And, you know, I fully expect that we will be able to build a value proposition for the district where the district should partially pay for it. But quite frankly, I don't care about that right now. I just care that we initiate a process to start making progress on this topic, which we have made essentially no progress in 3 years. And I'll pause for there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Wienko, please.
I'm going to be a bit more positive. I'm looking at the work program they have proposed for 2022, and I am pleased to see that they're trying out some lakeside collection at the Georgian Bay Landing and South Harbor Marina. So I guess that's South Bay Harbor Marina. And they're also talking to a number of the inland communities, Wabatos, Woods Landing, White Falls Marina, and so on, about what their needs are in the way of future garbage. And they're also proposing to do a consultation study with the Go Home Lake people about a waste depot site up in that area. So I'm very encouraged by what they're doing. But as you can see, most of this is done on the inland, and it's getting to the point where I'm quite satisfied that the inland community is getting what they need in the way of garbage. I don't buy into the issue that this is all related to costs. If you talk to individuals, they look at convenience. What is the convenience? And I'm willing to pay more if it's more convenient. For example, would everybody from Honey Harbor want to drive to the Baxter transfer site every Sunday night? It's going to add 20 minutes to a half an hour on your way home. That's not convenient. So they would want something in Honey Harbor, either at the marinas themselves or some other local facility in Honey Harbor. I like the idea that they're going to have security at the Honey Harbor. Well, they've chosen the Honey Harbor Depot as the first example. There's some hours here. I think we need to discuss those hours with the Georgian Bay councilors to find out if they're sufficient for manning that station, because outside of these hours, that waste depot site is going to be closed. So it's important that we get back to them on that. But I am very happy on the process being made on the inland community, because I think a lot of their needs are going to be met. So I think the issue in my mind is what's happening with the marinas in the Honey Harbor. That's where I'm quite concerned, and I'd rather leave those issues to the councilors on Georgian Bay. As to a consultant, yes, if we want to hire a consultant, I have no problem. I would like to get the district to pay for it, but they would want to make sure that they're going to benefit from it. If we're thinking of going on our own, I doubt if they're going to fund a consultant to do that. But if we're going to get a consultant in to look at options for some of our marinas, I think that would be a benefit to the district. So I have no problem with a consultant if you want to go out and hire your own consultant. But I would tend to try to get the district to pay for it, because we just don't have that kind of money, that $25,000. But and again, I'd like to get something done this year, because I think this term of council's got a good handle on it, and I hate to pass some of this stuff off to the next council. I would like to make sure that by the end of this term, we at least have some plans in place for all of our marinas, what's going to happen at each of our marinas. And so basically that's where I stand. I'm happy with the inland community. I'll leave the Georgian Bay community to the Georgian Bay councilors to work.
Thank you. Councilor Douglas.
Thank you. Yeah, all three of the councilors that have spoken so far, I can only say that, yes, I agree with Councilor Wianco. I think they are making some strides for the inland. It's hard for me to even get my head wrapped around what has not happened for the Bay. I think it's such a big task for them to take on. It is so complex and so different for all of us that, it's just a little bit too much. But I think at this point, I would be very much in favor of us getting a consultant to come in to give us a hand with this. I think we need to find it for the budget, because such a big part of our population is affected by this garbage issue. And I don't think that we can not sit on our laurels, but because we've been trying hard, but I don't think that we can expect that we're going to see the district pay for this, or even jump forward in any respect this year for sure, because they've already indicated they're busy working with the other townships, and I just think we just have not gotten the answers back. Maybe Julie, you're going to be lucky enough to get some answers back on prices, but it's very complex, and it is one of the most important issues for this township, for our constituents, I think. Our 87 or whatever it is, 87, 89% of the seasonal residents don't get a lot for their taxes, and they put a lot of credence to the garbage removal. And so I think we need to find the funding to get a consultant in to try and make headway with this. And thank you, Councillor Cooper, for reaching out to someone, because there is somebody out there that could get this started for us and try and get some resolution, so we have some direction. It just seems like it's such a big, ominous thing and so many moving parts that I think it's just too hard for any one of us to take on, and obviously even for the district to try and manage the different aspects needed. It's just a little bit, it just seems like it's just not going to get done. And I too would like to see it move forward for this term of council. New council coming in, some of us may be there, some of us may not be. It's going to take them a year to get up to speed with all the historical work that's been done this term, and last term for that matter. But yeah, that's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bochek.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think maybe one of the purposes of this meeting was to narrow the scope and focus of what we need going forward. And I can safely say that in my ward, the curbside pickup, there's no issues with. Running up to the Baxter transfer station to dump your stuff off if you miss the garbage truck, it's not an issue in my area. And I think we need to put our efforts towards what's happening on the coast of Georgian Bay and concentrate all of our efforts towards that. It's a problem. We're not going to be able to solve it because, as far as I'm concerned, none of us are experts in solid waste, nor do we have the time to dive into this thing as deeply as we need to dive into it. So I'm in favor of a consultant. I don't know where you find the money, but it's important. And maybe to reduce the cost is not have him look at the whole solid waste issue, but what really matters is coastal Georgian Bay islands and things like that, and not have him research and do all his work on the inlands here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting struggle. This one's going to be, but I think we've got to be careful here. I'm in favor of bringing in a consultant to have an overall look at our garbage situation and how we can resolve it. I think, despite what previous councillors have just stated, this is not just a coastal issue, because you've got to look at the environmental issue as well. And we know that district has had trouble, or is having trouble. They got to find a new dumping area. And I know Simcoe County's got issues with a place to put garbage. We've got to look at a way of reducing how much garbage across the municipality, district, whatever, it takes place by way of education and green bin and proper recycling. So that all comes under a very, very big umbrella. And the best way for us to do that, since district seems to have shown a lack of initiative, if nothing else, in moving ahead on this, they have only been reacting. And I think they would benefit from us doing this study, because it would be a headache taken off their table. So I think that they should be funding at least part of this study on our behalf. And I think we would all, land-based, water-based, parts of this community, all benefit from a study that would do an overreaching effort on all our garbage situation and figure out how we can best handle it, because this is getting pretty stale in many respects. I really do not like the fact that we've been sitting around waiting for district to come up with some answers on a lot of questions that are relevant, but they cannot provide the answers to. So my idea is, yeah, let's get ahead, get a study going. And if district is not going to fund it, we should fund it. But I cannot believe that they would not be interested in helping us out in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm afraid, Councillor Jarvis, you took some of the made some of the points that I was going to make. So I may sound a little repetitive, but I think there's a couple of elements here that I think we have to take into account. One is, and we've said this, and I heard again this afternoon, we said it numerous times in the past in one form or another, if we get better service, we'd be willing to pay for it. But in reality, that's what we're already doing. And we at the same time complain that we pay more for our garbage service than the other municipalities in the district. But we've also, for one reason or another, provided more services than other municipalities. For example, we don't charge for large items being brought to the transfer stations. The other municipalities do. We provide barge service in some cases. The other municipalities don't. Things like this cost money, and therefore we have tried different approaches, but they cost. I think I'm in agreement with what I'm hearing from, if not all of you, just about all of you, and probably all of you, about we should initiate a study, get a consultant, figure out, get some ideas from somebody who's hopefully a little more professional, a little more, dare I say, neutral on this matter, a little less emotionally involved. I found it very interesting, one sentence in the letter from Mr. Jahn that we just received today, and that was, in my opinion, a benefit to the district would need to be demonstrated to support funding, and this is of course in regards to us getting our own consultant. Well, I'm sorry. This is a service that they are to provide to us, and if we come up with some information that they don't have the time to get right now, we are providing a service. To me, that's easy. And so I would suggest that if we choose as a group to ask staff to find a consultant for us to initiate, I think at the same time we should also initiate an application to the EPW committee explaining what we are doing and how we will be willing to share what information we get from this consultant with them, because by the way, they as it currently stands, they have the responsibility to collect our solid waste. They're the ones that were providing the service for years, and unbeknownst to us, wasn't meeting all the regulations. So I think that they would absolutely benefit from whatever report we have, we could provide for them, because it'll save them time and effort to get it, because we'll provide it to them. And therefore, I think it makes perfect sense for us to apply for funding for that report. And even if they meet us halfway, it's better than us just paying for all of it ourselves. So that's one thing. The other thing, which I think is very important, and Councillor Jarvis again touched on this, we know that almost every municipality in the world, for that matter, in the province, certainly in the country, who care about solid waste are trying to reduce the amount of solid waste that gets thrown in the dumps. And that has to be part of our motivation. We know that most municipalities are creating some form of control mechanism to restrict how much garbage you can give to them. You know, like for instance, I know in Simcoe, they're issuing garbage pails to everybody, large garbage pails on wheels, and say anything that's inside that garbage pail will pick up every 2 weeks. Anything that's outside that garbage pail, you got to pay extra for. Other places have tagged bags. I mean, we know Muskoka has been talking about even going to clear bags, so that when they do the roadside pickup, they can confirm that what's inside that bag is truly recyclables and not just garbage hidden away. And you know, we know that the district's talking about controlling volume at transfer stations. I mean, they're already now recording your license plate and the weight that you bring in and out. And if you're going to anything other than the recycling or the household, even the household waste, you know, if you got 1 or 2 garbage bags, okay. But I think this year or next, they're going to say, well, this is the 3rd time your license plate is showing up this week. We have to start charging you. So, but it's not them picking on us. It's what every municipality is doing, is trying to control the volume of garbage. And if we were honest with ourselves, the current bin system does not control the volume of garbage produced by any individual. And that's one of the challenges that we face. And I think, and I you know, a couple of you at least were complimenting our new acting CAO and her interest in this project and listening to what we have to say. And I think I agree 100%. And I found one of my initial conversations with Ms. Boutiette quite interesting, because she challenged me. And every time I said, well, we could do this or we could do that, she said, no, that's a solution. Let's come up with the questions first. What are we trying to achieve? And I think actually she's right. I don't want to say you're always right, Ms. Boutiette, but I certainly think you have a positive track record. And certainly here you are, I think you're right. We should, with our consultant, because I think the consultant would be better doing it than us, determine what actually we're trying to achieve. And I think those goals should include things like reduced levels of garbage. And that includes diversion into green bins or recycled bins or what have you. Reduce, but not reduce convenience to any great extent. That has to be another thing we're trying to achieve. And I think that's the route we should go. I'm actually quite in favor, even though I'd rather have district do it, I'm quite in favor of the idea of us getting a consultant to work on it this year, not to kick the ball down the road to next term of council, even though I don't think this will be resolved this term, don't misunderstand me. And confirm what we're trying to do, and before we start looking at the alternatives, because we can talk about private service from marinas, or we can talk about additional transfer stations, or we can talk about dockside pickup, or we can talk about helicopter service. I don't care what we talk about. We first have to decide what we're trying to achieve, then consider various ways of achieving that and looking at the costs of those various ways in order to come up with some solution. And I think bringing a professional in who can sort of narrow our conversations down and help us, it makes a lot of sense. But I think step one of that would be, okay, let's determine what we're trying to achieve. And for me, what I think that is missing in the conversation a little too often, but should be one of the key priorities, is what I'll call environmental responsibility. Reducing garbage, reducing, like, when I hear that most of our recycled bin stuff gets thrown in the dump because it's contaminated, I just cringe. And that's, to me, something we should try to achieve, that we are actually, what's in our recyclable bin, the recyclable bins can be recycled. That's my little rant. If it quite, I don't know if it quite qualifies as a rant, but there you go. And I think that with that, one more round, and let's then try to construct a our short-term path forward on this project, one way or another, because I believe that's why we're having this discussion. And Councillor Cooper, your hand's been up for a while, so why don't you lead off round two? If you unmute, we'll probably get more than just trying to read your lips.
I'm thank you for that. I thought I had unmuted, but I didn't. And
Computers.
I just wanted to say that the points that you and Councillor Jarvis have raised about recycling and doing a better job and thinking of the environment is critical, and good for you for bringing that forward. I completely agree. And I'm not going to talk about solutions other than to say I don't know that we have any of the solutions at the moment. We know what some of them could be, and that's why we need some help. So I don't think we should assume that anything's off the table. I do know that, I don't know so much from an environmental perspective, but from a cost perspective, that our bin sites, our curbside collection is very inexpensive. It just logically, if you look at the numbers, it's incredibly inexpensive, and I think that makes a lot of sense. If it's inexpensive and more or less working, let's figure that out. But or continue to work with that kind of solution. But there are many other things that are happening across our township. One of being, which is unmanned bin sites that are often a huge mess, and that's an environmental problem too. And I really think we can't leave anything off the examination table, shall we say. So that would be my rant, my little rant. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bochek.
Yeah, to try and be constructive here, I think there's a tremendous amount of difference about the amount of solid waste that's created from island residents and cottagers, as opposed to people that live here. If I owned an island cottage, I wouldn't be composting and having who knows what around my dwelling when I'm not there. But here we compost. You know, we avoid buying one-use plastics. We burn for heat. Most of us heat with either wood or whatever we can find to burn. So on garbage day, we put out very little on the mainland here, the permanent residents, because we don't need to. But I understand that, you know, the cottage, you come up, you take everything out in a boat, you go out there and you got to bring it all back and you got to get rid of it. I understand that. So that's why I've said throughout this, I think we really need to concentrate on how we're going to service the island residents. The waterfront properties, I don't think are an issue because they have the ability to throw it in the back of their pickup truck and drive it to the transfer station. It's more the island dwellers and the coastal Georgian Bay that doesn't have road access. And I'd still like to see the focus be put on that, but we could all do better. We could all do better, and we need to get that message out there.
Thank you. Boy, have we silenced the rest of you? Wow. So until I'll start making suggestions, and then everybody will be keen on changing my mind, I'm sure. But I think where we're headed, what I'm hearing, at least from everyone, is that we would like to hire a consultant to address the Georgian Bay Township challenges, recognizing, as Councillor Bocek said, is that a fair portion of our challenge is regards to the half of our residents, roughly, who are water access only. Now, of those, we know on Go Home Lake, most of them go via the couple bin sites, and most of them go via those bin sites because they've been used to doing that for years. So I can see that and Councillor Douglas, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they know where they're headed with their garbage, and it's just to collect it in a more responsible manner than the unpatrolled bin sites that we have now. But that's, I don't think they're expecting a change in service in too significant a way. So it's really Georgian Bay predominantly where we have a fair chunk of water access only residences. And I think our consultant would be spending most of their time in that area. That would just make sense. So my last time I spoke, I was suggesting we go for a consultant and we make an application to the district that they help pay for the consultant. Ms. Boutier.
Through you, your worship, Councillor Cooper mentioned a consulting firm, Hutchison, that would be potentially able to help us. The option 2 in the proposed recommendation, I believe that's where council is lining up. However, the first line is to draft an RFP. If council desires to sole source, that line could be changed to sole source. And what I bring from staff expertise or inexpertise is that we've never written a waste RFP for a consultant before. Therefore, we could work with council to draft one. However, instead of drafting an RFP, if council wishes to sole source to Hutchison, we could change that sentence to work with Hutchison to develop a scope of work.
Councillor Douglas, followed by Councillor Hazelton, please.
Thank you. I'm not opposed to working with Hutchinson, for instance, but if the township needs help getting an RFP put together, I can give you the name of a corporation that does strictly RFPs for all kinds across the board. They have people that write RFPs. So either way, and whoever we work, well, anyways, we'll just leave it at that. No, there's going to be comment on other stuff, but.
Councillor Hazelton.
Julie, I like what you're suggesting. We have an existing relationship, an approved relationship with Hutchison, and if some preliminary scans of caliber have already pointed out that that seems to be a reasonable path, that's reasonable from my perspective. And I would much rather have us work as a team to define an effective terms of reference for this consultant, which is what is likely going to be the key and the magic to having that consultant produce something that is valuable for our township, and far more valuable than attempting to create an RFP, which, as I've already said, we've already got the relationship. We should be looking at them as an extension of our staff and people that we can call on to go off and do tasks that need to be done. Thank you.
Mayor Kutzier, if I could just add on something, please.
Certainly.
I didn't put my hand up, but I have trouble with that.
I thought that was Councillor Hazelton had trouble with that.
Mine was up.
Yes, I see yours, Councillor Bocek.
Sorry, Councillor Bocek, I didn't see yours. Anyway, I just wanted to point out that I went to speak with other people in operations in different municipalities and tried to find out if there's anybody that would be able to wrap their head around the challenges that we have because of the really unique setup that we have in Georgian Bay with water access and, you know, all the different solutions that we have. And I have to say, and I'm speaking, for example, with the archipelago, they tried to think of somebody that could do this, and any names that I was given when I said, yeah, but could they get their heads wrapped around what I'm talking about? They hadn't actually worked with these people. They said they're a really good firm, but they're in, you know, St. Catharines or London or something. And this is such an unusual situation here. You don't just have to understand solid waste, you have to understand the collection of solid waste in a really weird environment. So anyway, that's for what it's worth. I did some other due diligence, and I'm not suggesting it has to be a sole source in this gentleman at Hutchison, but given the point being raised that we already work with them, and David Leader is somebody that Julie could call and maybe do a bit of vetting herself and see what she thinks about this gentleman. And if she feels comfortable, I'd be fine with with a single source and getting on with life. So for what it's worth.
Thank you. Councillor Wojcik, I believe your hand is raised.
Yeah, thanks. Julie, are we dealing with the lame duck commissioner up there? Is that what I read, that he's announced his resigning or retiring? So what date are we working with Fred, and then we're going to have to start all over with someone else? I'm sure there's people that have been involved outside of him, but do we have a couple of months?
Through your worship, I believe the date is June.
Mm-hmm.
June. Okay, so that's plenty of time to keep this in it, you know, up front. So yeah, I would say, as well, it's not direction, but expediently as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's one of the advantages of not doing the RFP, because not only do you have to create the RFP, you have to wait for responses and then evaluate all of them. Councillor Jarvis.
I think you just said what I was going to say. For Jay.
Wow.
There we go. I normally would be a proponent for an RFP. It's more transparent, and it tends to bring in different perspectives on how things can get done. But we are dealing with a rather unique situation, and Hutchison, because we've used it before, are in a unique situation of already having some background on our situation. So it'll probably be a good idea.
All right. Ms. Boutier.
Through you, your worship, the last part of the option 2 that I would propose we tweak a little bit would be adding another and that direct staff to write a letter to the district to cover the cost, to do a cost recovery in parallel or something of that sort. So that would mean we have a resolution that we will cover the cost, but we'll still explore getting cost recovery from the district so that it doesn't hold up the project and waiting for a response and stuff like that.
Sounds good. Councillor Rienko. Oh, you're muted, Councillor Rienko.
And he's also using his phone, so it's probably a little bit more of a challenge.
There we go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm on my phone now. I'm on data. Can you just, I've missed the last 10, 15 minutes. Can you just update me as the direction we're going right now, or what's happened in the last 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah, you've been elected to do our garbage.
Good, good. I charge a lot.
No, well, you can put in a quote, but no, we're going for what was originally considered option 2, which is to hire a consultant. It's been suggested that we use Hutchison's for that because we believe they have the expertise and save our time of going through an RFP and going through numerous consultants who we know are out there but do not have experience with our township. And that we will also we're willing to pay for it, but we're going to make an application to the district to give us some cost recovery in order, because we believe we're actually providing a service to district because they're the ones that are supposed to take care of our solid waste.
Okay, has there been a scope discussed?
Only slightly.
Or concentrate in one area or what?
Well, we were talking about concentrating on water access only properties predominantly in Georgian Bay.
Okay, I'll go along with that. I say, I think the most of the inland is covered by either pickup or waste depots, and they're all happy with that, so they don't really want to change.
And if I may, the inland side of our township is more similar to the rest of the district, unlike the Georgian Bay coast. Which, and by the way, Commissioner Jahn has admitted that he has no experience on the Georgian Bay coast with solid waste. That's a new area for him. He admits that that his expertise is more in the let me call it the balance of the district.
Okay, just one thing before I was leaving. I think you were mentioning the purpose of our waste management strategy. It really is to reduce waste that would end up in the Rosewood. Yeah. So what they want to do is divert a lot more, and also divert kitchen waste. So all of our waste depots will be manned eventually, and they say they're going to start off in Honey Harbor this year, and they'll all be manned. And I think, if I understand it right, there will be a bag limit of one bag per week for waste that would go up to the Rosewood. And you can bring as much kitchen waste as you want and as much as recycling as you want, but you may be limited to one bag. And I think that's the whole purpose of the waste strategy program at the district, is to extend the life of the Rosewood site up at Bracebridge.
And I think all of council's on board with the idea of we need greater diversion of our waste into whether it's green bin or call it the blue or gray bins, whatever, that we need less garbage. Councilor Cooper.
Just point of clarification, if you don't mind. I think we've identified certainly that the water access issue is certainly very key. And I think I certainly agree that the curbside program is working exceedingly well. I think the manned transfer stations are working exceedingly well, but we did see evidence very recently of unmanned bin sites across the township being very problematic. So I think we need to be careful about restricting what kind of advice we get when we talk about something like that. So I would suggest that that becomes part of the terms of reference, that you know, we need to examine a good number of our services, maybe not all of them. Thank you.
Fair enough. Ms. Boutier, what else do you need from us?
Through your worship, if Clerk Way has captured that, I think we've got a motion.
Ms. Way, how are you feeling about that? And while she's working on it, what I appreciate about this is we're moving this forward. We're taking next steps. All right.
Can we name Hutchison as the sole source, please?
Okay.
I can't find my unmute button. I'm so sorry. Is it
Okay.
Hutchinson Consulting Engineering? When I'm sharing my screen.
Can you read the motion, because it's too small on my phone to read?
We
Prior
will,
to that, Can we say in the second that that the terms of reference be, there's missing terms of reference in that second that.
We also see it on the screen again.
Yeah. Okay, now that I'm unmuted, sorry.
Karen, by the way, it's Hutchison, I believe, Environmental. I think that's the name of the firm.
Thank you, Counselor Cooper.
ESON, I think. Not Hutchinson. I think it's HUTCHESON, I believe. Environmental, anyway.
Are they the ones out of Kitchener?
No,
Oh, because I got a Hutchinson Environmental Science Limited in Kitchener.
oh, well, that's, I think, an arm of
Okay,
Neil Hutchison's firm that's based in Bracebridge.
okay.
It's Hutchinson with an I N. Hutchinson Environmental Sciences
Okay,
Ltd. And that's out of Bracebridge.
I ask that we include the fact that we're not just looking for a needs and wants analysis, but we're also looking for a financial review and a legislative path. Because we don't know what these things are, and some people say the district has lots of power in the with respect to waste management, and I think that this consultant can dig in and get us the details of what we need to understand to enable any path forward. Rather than propose solutions, what I'm looking for here is explicitly understanding the judicial path forward.
Can you undo on that delete first? I like that sentence. I just wanted to add terms of reference in that sentence, that the draft terms of reference be circulated.
Oh, okay, instead of having it for the RFP.
Yes. And I guess the last part.
Thank you.
Okay, legislative requirements might be better than review.
Whatever.
Just
That'll
looking
come
for
out,
variety.
in terms of reference.
Everything past in the first that the draft terms of reference be circulated for comments in March 2022. You could just delete the rest of that sentence.
so Julie, what you're saying there is we don't really need to run it off into April. We've already said, let's do this. We just need to review the terms of reference with you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is a council meeting, so it's not a cow, so therefore we can make a decision now if we're up to it.
Correct. Counselor, does Counselor Wienko still need this read?
I will read the whole thing just to make sure. Okay, so I have moved by Councillor Douglas, seconded by Councillor Hazelton. Whereas Council of the Township of Georgian Bay understands that the MECP has identified that the District of Muskoka's solid waste management is not meeting current standards and regulations. And whereas Council of the Township of Georgian Bay understands that the deadline of April 2023 for full implementation of any solid waste system improvements will be extended. And whereas Council of the Township of Georgian Bay understands the District of Muskoka has the mandate of solid waste collection for the district, including Georgian Bay. Therefore, be it resolved that Council directs staff to sole source from Hutchinson Environmental Sciences Limited to perform a needs and wants analysis, financial review, and legislative requirements, and that the draft terms of reference be circulated for comments in March 2022, and that the cost be borne by the township at a maximum of $25,000 funded by the working fund reserve, and that council directs staff to request a District Muskoka share in the cost of the consultant. Councilor Yanko.
Yeah, I have no problem with this. But we're agreeing that the 2022 program, as outlined in the letter we got today, will go forward. Is that okay? Is that still good? Or are we telling the district to stop or whatever?
Well,
Does it go forward? Because it really addresses a lot of inland marinas.
yeah, I think, quite frankly, I think they're going to have real trouble with step one anyway, because having spoken to the owner of those two marinas in step one, he in no way wants his bins removed. And I
Okay,
think they were thinking that they're going to remove his bins and try this lakeside collection. And I think his approach was, sure, you can try a lakeside collection, but don't take my bins until you have a better solution.
okay, okay.
Maybe,
Okay.
if I could just ask that the next time we have a discussion about this, that I don't want to carry this, take this any further, but other than to get a better understanding of what they mean by a lakeside solution in these two marinas. Because if it's what has been purported to have worked in Muskoka at a couple of very small marinas, I'm sorry, is not going to work at any big marina in Honey Harbor. It's very short time limits and all sorts of restrictive aspects to that testing, shall we say.
Their lakeside collection means parking a garbage truck or two at a particular site for a prescribed number of hours. And while they said they could extend those hours, that's basically what it is a garbage truck is parked at a marina for 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours on a particular day to collect garbage.
Well, that's very interesting, but good luck. Park it there
Yeah.
for the weekend. It might work.
Well, what I suggested to them, does that mean you're gonna have a garbage truck at every marina Sunday afternoon and evening? That's a lot of garbage trucks.
Well, and Peter, that's not going to work anyway, because people come and go on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and so on.
Yeah, I know.
So good luck.
But again, once we start looking at possible solutions and you start looking at various costs, certain ideas will get tossed more readily than others, I suspect. Okay. Are you ready for me to call for the vote? All those in favor? And that is carried, I'd say, unanimously. Thank you.
So Mayor Kutzier, just a kind of a social comment. Somebody once told me that we had 10 marinas in Honey Harbor. And I thought, geez, I think I know where those 10 marinas are. And then I started doing a calculation or a mapping, if you will, of the marinas. I'm now up to 16, and the count could be climbing. And if you are open to receiving an email, I will send you what I've got. I think it's important that we know that there are a ton of marinas in Honey Harbor. Some of them are small. Some of them camouflage themselves as a lodge, but in fact are a marina, such as the Blue Water Lodge and Marina, where they've got, I don't know, 30 or 40 boats that they park. So I think it would be in the process of trying to provide an effective terms of reference. I think we need to provide the consultant with a starting point of where are all these marinas, and what give him an idea of the visits he's going to need to do to understand the scope of the problem.
I think what we have from the district and the reports of a couple of years ago is they have a listing of all the bin sites, for instance, and all the waste depots that they have in the municipality. I think there are a couple of marinas that don't have bins, but
Yes.
last I heard, I think it was 17 marinas in Honey Harbor, but I don't know how accurate that figure is.
Well, then I'm missing one, and we'd like to be able to identify that one, but
They might have closed since that time.
Yep, and then we also have marinas in close proximity to each other where the marina that has the bins on their property believe that they are their bins, and they don't want the marina next door to have their customers putting waste in their bins, which in fact aren't their bins, they're district bins. So, yeah.
There are a couple of those examples too. But certainly, one of the things we would share with the consultant near the top would be a list of the reports that have been produced to date. And they do, and many of them list all the bin sites. All right. Well, thank you very much, Council, for that discussion. I think at this point, we can end this unless there's anything else that anybody wants to add.
I'd just like to thank Julie once again. This is amazing. We're actually getting somewhere on solid waste. This is truly remarkable. Way to go, gang. Yay.
It's all garbage.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Bochek here. I think I might have to recuse myself from any further discussions on this waste management part of our council meetings. In 10 days' time, I become the general manager of Maple Leaf Marinas. And
Really? Congratulations.
thank you. And I think I'm going to have a conflict. As much as I would really like to stay on board here and help out the marinas in Honey Harbor, I think I may be in a conflict. I'm actually getting independent legal advice at this time, so
Okay.
we'll wait and see what happens.
All right. Well, thank you for that information and congratulations. This is instead of snow plowing, is
Congrats.
I'm starting off in Honey Harbor, so I don't have far to go.
We get to call you General?
No. I think Dave wants that title.
All right. I have moved by Councillor Jarvis, seconded by Councillor Wienko. Be it resolved that council adopts bylaw 2022-019. Ms. Way?
20.
020 to confirm the proceedings of the February 15th, 2020 council meeting. All those in favor? Moved by Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Douglas. Be it resolved that council does now adjourn at 3:59 p.m. until March 14th, 2022 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the chair. And I think we're probably going to have a call for what is it, March 1st or something? So we may have a meeting prior to this. Anyway, with having said that, 3:59 p.m. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.